So we're working on an Auxbeam control panel, doing it a little different than I've ever done it before, kind of designing my own power tray, if you will, I guess. So we're going to jump right in. First thing I had to do was fabricate a tray holder, which is going to go here. Had to bend the brackets and then came up with a tray to fit on top. It's going to go like so. And then the Auxbeam unit's going to sit up there, as well as a negative bus to be able to ground things out. And then I've got a breaker up here in the front. There is going to be a wire running from the positive terminal of the battery over here to the breaker, and then from the breaker over to the Auxbeam that'll be mounted to the tray here to be able to power it, obviously. And then it will be grounded, I think, right up here, right down there, nice and not easy to get to, but it'll be grounded there, and so will the bus bar that I'm going to go ahead and hook up to use as my ground. So first things first, I need to go ahead and, I guess, temporarily mount the Auxbeam unit on here so that I can see where to drill a couple holes to mount my negative bus bar, or my grounds, if you will. Alright, got everything mounted that I wanted mounted here. A little tight, but not too bad. Could be a little more secure, I think. I mean, it moves, but everything is fastened and tight, so it's not that big a deal. Everything under the hood is going to shimmy and shimmer a little bit. Next up is to go ahead and connect the power cable. I'm going to go ahead and connect it anyway, up to the breaker here. And notice I don't have the breaker hooked up yet. It is off. So when I run the power wire over here, I'm actually going to run it from here over there first. It'll be off, and there will be nothing powered to the unit itself. We also have to run the wire for the control head into the cab. That's a whole nother little project. And then we have to hook up, they call this a master switch power cable. What the red cable does is, when power is on in the truck, it allows the unit to be on so that it's not on all the time. You don't have to do it that way, but I recommend it. I've done it in the past without doing that, and I have run the battery down. And then, of course, we have the ground, which will go right over here. It's going to be tight, but it's going to be right down there. So let me get this hooked up. We'll move on. Okay, here's an update. We've got the ground run from here all the way down to right down there. I was able to access it, no big deal. Also, we've got the power connected up on this side right here. So now all we need to do, I say all, there's a lot left. I need to run power to this unit. I'm just going to run the wire. I'm not going to hook it up yet until I have everything connected up. But I will get the wire secured and over there to the battery in the meantime. And what I'm using, this is a 4 gauge cable, and it's just long enough. It should reach over there. I'm going to zip tie it to that kind of plastic piece across the front. I'll drill little holes. I've done it before. If you do that, just make sure you don't hit that silver line you see going across there, or you might have a problem. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and run that, and then it'll be time to, I guess, run the wiring for the unit itself into the control head in the truck. That, of course, means going through the firewall down here. I've made it a little more difficult for myself as far as space goes, but I think I'll be okay. Okay, let's catch you guys up a bit. I have run the wire, and this is the control head wire, if you will, from the front of the truck in through the big grommet down there, you guys can see. And if you look to the right, you can see where my cable goes through. Of course, it comes through on the inside, on the bottom, right behind the dead pedal there, the dead area. And then I took it over to the center console area, ran it up underneath, and then I popped up the center console piece here. And by the way, you may have noticed that blue wire floating around down there, right here. That, let's see if you guys can see it right there. That is just plugged in to the back of one of the blanks, and it doesn't do anything. So obviously it's there for a reason. It's wired to something if you have the option, but I don't have the option, so it's not plugged into anything. What I've done here is I've pulled the blank switches out because I used those. There's a little light for you. I used 2 of those to mount my switch panel control unit. It's going to sit right up here, and then it's going to plug in via the cable that I ran and be fed in through one of these holes that I'll just leave open. Not a big deal. Now, to do the switch panel, or the control head rather, I actually drilled out a couple of center pieces and matched them up with the bracket that came with the kit. And then this is going to simply plug in right to where those holes currently are, and then I'll screw in the connection on the back, and that's it. Should be a pretty seamless install. Did take a bit of time though, I must say. Drilling these and getting the screws in and all of that from the back. You can see there's a screw here, and there's one here, and there's a nut inside this thing on the other side. So you can imagine it's kind of tedious, right? So all I have left to do is to put that in. Pretty simple. We do have to connect a trigger wire, and from my research and using a power detector, and it looks like, find it here, it looks like this. All you do is stick the point of this thing on top of the fuses while the truck is off. There's a little exposed metal area on every fuse to find the ones that are not live, and there are many that are, even when the truck is off. Once you find one that's live, that's acceptable to use, then you want to start the truck and test it again to make sure that when the truck is running, it's now powered. I'm going to use the 4th one up, number 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, right here. It's the only one I could find that I'm not real concerned about. There are 3 others here, of course, and they're dead as well when the truck is off. Now, what I'm going to do, again, trying to make this a little bit neater than my last install, I'm going to drill just a little hole right through the side of the fuse box here to run this trigger wire, and then I'm going to plug it in via a piggyback connector, if you will, whatever you want to call those. They look like this. You put the original fuse in the empty slot. The Auxbeam comes with a 5 amp itself, and then I'm going to plug this in. All right, the project is done, and I went ahead and hooked up the LED light on the front, so I'm going to show you that. Let's do a quick recap of what I did. This is the Auxbeam 6-gang panel, a little bit different than the 8-gang as far as how it's hooked up, and the biggest difference is that it does not provide for a negative connection within the box. You have to come up with something yourself or just ground to your truck. So beware of that if you happen to be looking for this 6-gang Auxbeam unit. I have the breaker up here. That connects over via the black wire, and yeah, I know it probably should be red, but it connects up to the battery via the black cable, runs down to the Auxbeam, which again has its own separate terminal ground, which is what this is, and it is also grounded into the side of the truck. I could have grounded it here, but I need all the grounds for the possible connections. So it's grounded right down there where the white wires are. I don't know if you can see that, but it's grounded right there. And that's pretty much it. This is quite a lengthy project. I did have to fabricate the tray for it. That's what holds this up. There are pre-threaded screws down below, so that made it kind of easy. I just had to make the brackets and the tray myself. Came out really well, I think. So now I'm going to show you the inside, and we're going to fire up this light bar and make sure that it works. Let's go ahead and fire up the truck. Shouldn't be any check engine lights or anything. I didn't really get into any of the guts of the truck itself. This is what it looks like, and it's apparently default on blue, and that's perfect because my truck is blue. I love that. That is freaking awesome. There are 6 switches. There is a master on off. Now, the light I hooked up to should be number 5 because I needed at least a 10 amp breaker. The light itself is actually 5.7, I believe, or 7.5, something like that. But it was above 5, so that's why I use the 10 amp breaker. So let's go ahead, push the button, see if anything actually happens. Oh yeah, look up there. I should turn the headlights off. There, the headlights are off. Now let me hit number 5, and it works. How about that? Now, of course, we got to step outside and take a look. I mean, come on, man. It's exciting when your electrical accessories work and your truck's not on fire. This is what the light looks like. I'll have to test it at night. It's bright sunshine outside, so you really can't tell how bright it is. But it suffices for what I wanted, and I think it looks pretty good. Cool. So let's check one more thing. This should go off, and the way that it works, because of that trigger wire that I ran, it'll stay on until the truck shuts down. It's about 15 seconds or something like that. So I'm going to go ahead, pop the truck off. And by the way, I do need to label it. They come with labels. I need to put, you know, a light bar or something on there. Let's go ahead and shut the truck down. And after I shut the door, should be about 15 seconds. You can see inside, I think it's still lit up. You can see it there. But once the truck power is fully down, it'll shut off because it is hooked up to a circuit, and there it went, to a circuit that's not normally on. And there you go. You can see inside, nothing on. When I open the door, it doesn't come on either. It's triggered by ignition. So there you go. That is quite a lengthy install for me. It took the better part of 2 days to be able to get this thing up and running the way I wanted to. And that's probably why I did it the way I wanted to do it. And that was more time consuming, I think, than if I'd have just thrown it in there and not made a tray and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's awesome, and it gives me a way to add now 5 more electrical accessories to the truck, like maybe some Raptor style lights, or who knows. There's all kinds of things to add. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.